Do you like rainbows? I do too. And I love the Rainbow Promise Award. It is designed for helping hands and it is officially a helping hand award. But when I taught it to my club a couple years ago, we used it as a whole club award. And it was awesome. Not all awards are great to mix up the ages with, but this is one that truly did work with even our very youngest kids. So I want to talk to you about it a little bit, show you the activities we did, and I hope that you will do it as well. One heads up for anyone who is like currently reading my blog posts and goes, what? We did do this a couple years ago. And so some of the information I'm going to be giving you about my club is a couple years older. I don't actually currently have little lambs in my club, but I did when I taught this award. All right, here we go. So I like to kick off the new adventure year with a club-wide award. This just gives us a chance to see the club as a whole instead of just the little parts that we meet in the class groups. And it also gives us a little extra flexibility. At the first meeting, we usually have an idea how many kids we'll have and what their ages will be, but sometimes it can be a total surprise and we'll have people who show up who we didn't know about. So we usually combine that first meeting with all of our classes together, and that just gives us a little more flexibility to be prepared for someone who just walks in the door who's brand new. So when we did this award, we did have a pretty good idea who was coming, but we also wanted to be prepared just in case, because I always want everyone to feel welcome, whether we know they're coming or not. So we had a wide range of ages from 3 to 10. And I was a little nervous about teaching a helping hand award to little lambs, but they each had an adult with them and to help them with any of the hard parts, and they all did really great. So we started with a book, because I love to start anything with a book that I can, and we read Rainbow by Marion Dane Bauer. This book was at my library, and I just love the sweet pictures in Rainbow. The author does a nice job of explaining the science behind rainbows. She also tells about different kinds of rainbows. And if you'd like to preview this book, you can find it here on YouTube. I also recommend that you check to see what your local library has, because they are an amazing resource. Who saw the very first rainbow in Genesis 9:8-17? The older kids, all of our elementary age kids, looked up the verses in their Bibles, and then we read the story aloud for everyone. This was actually kind of one of the pain points. The littles really wanted to get their hands in the Bibles, and they felt very left out when we wouldn't hand 3-year-olds the Bibles with the very, very thin pages. They handled it okay, but that was one area that I think that was probably the hardest part of this entire award, was waiting for the older kids to find it in their Bibles and then to read it. What is a covenant? That's the next requirement. We had a quick 2-minute discussion about the definition of a covenant, and we chatted a little bit about what a promise is. For our craft, we made these very cute tissue paper rainbows. They're sun catchers. And I was inspired by this idea by Amber's stained glass rainbow craft, and you can find the links to this on my blog post. I did create a silhouette cut file for this because I wanted my cutting machines to do all the prep work for this thing. And it is available, that cut file is available on my website as well, should you want to use it. If you have the ability to cut these out with some sort of machine, I highly recommend it because they are kind of time consuming. If you are hand doing it, then I really recommend you check out the blog post that is linked because hers is an easier option to use if you're cutting it by hand. So you'll want to check that out. So to prepare for this, you will need to have either cardstock or construction paper in black. I really like using cardstock when I am cutting with a cutting machine, but I think the construction paper would probably be easier to work with if you're hand cutting. You will also need to have some contact paper. And then in addition to that, you are going to need tissue paper. That's about it, everything that you need. So, and I like to get my tissue paper in pre-cut sizes because you get a whole rainbow of colors in one package. So it's very handy. And also they come in a really great size to hand out. So this is a 2-inch size. And I bought this bag, I don't know, probably 10 years ago, and I'm still working on it. So they do really last a while. I use them for little lambs all the way up whenever I get to do it. Every so often I get to do a stained craft project, and I love the stained glass project ideas. So yeah, these work really great. I've also gotten some smaller ones. I think these are 1 inch. So even these, you kind of probably want to rip them a little bit, but these are nice and small. You can see there's a whole ton of colors in there. So although this does not look like very much, there's quite a bit in here, and there were more stacks when I purchased it. So to prepare for this, after I have all the supplies, then the next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to cut your rainbows. However you're doing it, whether you're doing it by hand or, you know, machine, whatever it is. So what I do is I cut them out, and then I cut out my pieces of contact paper to be a little bit bigger than my rainbow. And I like to have this all prepared like this for the meeting. So what I do is I take the contact paper off of, I just open it up. Let's see if I can do that on camera. So I open it up like this, peel it all the way off, place the black rainbow on, and then I just put the backing back over it again. That way it travels well, and it's all ready. So then when you hand it to the kids, right before they get started, we peel this backing all the way off, and we're done with this piece. And then this, since, you know, contact paper is sticky, this is sticky, and so they can put their little pieces of paper right on here. It'll stick on. We don't need glue, anything like that. It's very self-contained craft. So once you have it like that, then the next thing you're going to want is you're going to want to actually have 2 pieces of paper of this size, not paper, contact paper, because you are going to need one for the back and one for the front. So they just need one black outline, and then they need 2 pieces of contact paper. Once you give them to the kids, then you can give them a whole pile of the little tissue paper squares, and we just like spread out a variety of colors in the middle of the table, and then they could grab whatever they wanted. We did talk to them about what color went where, because I believe that is part of the award. And this is, as you can guess, it is too big to fit in one spot. So they do need to tear them, but tearing paper is really, really good for little hands. So that's great, especially those little kids, but tearing is easy for the big kids, and it's really good practice for the littles. At some point, the parents are probably going to want to get involved, because this actually does take a while to tear all of it. It will get a little bit messy. If you look at mine on the back, you can see, and I made this one, so this is a grown-up, so I was really careful with my sample, but it does come out onto the edges, and that's going to happen. But the great thing is that this is the back, and this is the side that they can see when they're working. And so then once you flip it around, look at that. All the mistakes are gone. So, yeah. Once all the spaces are filled in, then you're going to want to have somebody check to make sure their name is on it somewhere. Don't make the mistake of waiting to put the name on it. You can write right on the black. A white pen is ideal, but pencil will work. It actually looks kind of silvery, and it is readable. But definitely want to do that before you finish. And you can write, just on the black. Although we did have some people who were writing kind of on the tissue paper, and it did kind of work. So after that, then you take that second piece, and you very carefully put it on over the back. Smooth it down from the center across each direction. For your littles, you're probably going to want to have an adult do that. Your older kids will be able to handle it just fine, but the littles are going to need a little bit of extra help. And then once those pieces are connected, either a parent or an older adventurer, helping hands can totally do this, but your little lambs are going to need an adult involved, to just cut around it. And you want to leave a little bit of space because you want it to kind of seal it in. And after that, it's done. We actually hung these up in our windows in our adventure room for most of the year, and they just added a bright little spot of brightness to our classroom. So I loved having these decorated. After about 15 to 20 minutes of working on our craft, this is a time-consuming craft, it was time for a game break. So we played Rainbow Tag. For Rainbow Tag, basically, you are going to divide the kids up into different colors. Ideally, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. And then you're going to call names, and the kid who's it is going to go. I mean, you're going to call colors. The kid who's it is going to, like, try to tag them, or kids. And there is a link to more information about that on my website. I did find that with our particular group that we did need to make some modifications because we only had 8 kids. And so with 8 kids, if you have 6 colors, there would be a lot of time where we're only calling one kid over, which didn't work very well. So in the future with this size of group, I would definitely limit us to 3 or 4 colors maximum. Obviously, it's not quite as rainbowy, but it is more fun. The other issue that I did notice with this game is I watched how our little lambs handled the game. If they were teamed up with an adult, they did great. They totally understand the concept of running from one side to the other. But if they're on their own, they just kind of ran around in circles with no idea what the game was or what was going on around them. As this was the first meeting for the little lambs' parents, they were kind of shy about playing tag. So it was really hard to get them involved to help their little lamb. I think with more practice, they would have been fine. I would totally do this game again with this age group and this group of kids. But it's just an issue that I did notice with my particular group. All of my older adventurers had younger siblings, so they were all very gentle with the littles. I'm always a little nervous about when I put my big kids and my little kids together. But with that particular group, again, all of them were so used to playing with 3 and 4-year-olds that they were totally gentle with them, which was pretty awesome to watch. So if your kids aren't necessarily that familiar with that, you might need to remind your older adventurers that they need to be really gentle with the littles because like knocking them down isn't so fun. After our game, we headed back to the adventure room to finish our rainbow craft and do a little bit of science. The kids loved this project of making a rainbow out of M&Ms. You can do this with M&Ms or you can do this with Skittles. So for this size plate, I did use 4 bags of fun size M&Ms, but it's because I was being kind of picky about the colors. You could do it with just 3 if you were less picky. The colors are rather random, so I had some bags that were full of red and other bags that were full of blue. Oddly, I didn't see a lot of yellow on any of them that I did. So I have just a white glass plate here, but I have done this on a paper plate. Those nice thick Chinette plates do work. You might want to have it at least double thickness for that. So for this, you're going to need some sort of plate. You're going to need your M&Ms or your Skittles, and you will need some water. The kids did the job of placing out the M&Ms in rainbow order before we got started. Before we handed out the M&Ms, I did remind them that we do not eat our science projects. Kids grabbing food while we're all mixing them together just seems like a really great way to be spreading illnesses. So we definitely did not want to do that. Let's see if we can get this side a little bit more. I wasn't sure how this would go with especially the younger kids, if they'd be interested, but watching the kids while they watched this rainbow process was just so much fun because every kid from ages 3 to 10 was gathered around the plate, mesmerized watching these colors as they started to move around. It was so much fun to watch them because they were so engaged and they loved it. And for anyone who is concerned, I did send home packets of M&Ms with their parents because I did feel that playing with M&Ms and not getting to eat any might be a little harsh. So, but we also try not to do a lot of sugar at my club, so I left it kind of more up in the hands of the parents. Let's see if we get that going a little bit more over there. This is not a requirement. This doesn't actually fulfill any part of Rainbow Promise, but it is fun if you have the time to do it. I highly recommend you include it in your program plans because watching these colors is just fun. And one of the hardest parts is sitting back and letting it do it on its own and not touching the plate. If you start messing with the plate very much, it will start turning brown and very muddy. After all that, you can finish by reading Revelation 4:3 and letting the kids know that this is a piece of a description of heaven, and then ask them the question of where will we find a rainbow in heaven? To find the answer, you're going to have to read Revelation 4:3. So I'm curious, have you taught this award? And if you have, what are the activities that you love to do with it? Please tell me in the comments. I would love to hear from you and find out what you like to do. And you can, of course, find all the instructions on my website at laurasadventureresources.com. And you'll also find the cut file there as well. I hope that your week is going well. And as always, I hope that you are bombarded with as many volunteers as you need. Bye.